organize these events. So also I will be giving you certain examples, right? Because I understand it's a new concept for some of you out here. So I will be certainly giving some examples to understand what I'm saying, so that you can, reflect on the same, view the same, and then maybe if you have questions and comments, you can post it in the same. So let's move forward. What are student-led conferences, right? So we all have heard the term conference some way or the other, right? Where people are coming together, sitting together and having a discussion, right? So how does student-led conferences work at a school level, right? So what do we have is, we have a three-party, right? We have the student, we have the parent, and we have the teacher, right? And we have a discussion, we have a conversation about a student's work, right? And the work is being organized in a portfolio, right? So earlier, before the COVID time, we used to have a physical portfolio. So student used to have a file, right? And they used to prepare a portfolio, right? But now, because we have gone through this whole COVID situation, we have adapted and we are using the technology and we are making digital portfolios, right? Digital portfolios, you could use a presentation, any tool. It could be a Canva, it could be a Sway, it could be a PPT, whatever the student is comfortable with, right? So herein we are meeting at a time slot which the school is organizing, right? Where the family members, it could be a parent, it could be a sibling who wants to join the conference, and the child is leading that discussion. So for example, if I am the class teacher for grade 8, for example, so I have me as a teacher, I have a parent, both the parents probably, and I have the child. So now my role is just to facilitate, to be there. The leader of that conference becomes a student. He is having that responsibility to lead the conference, right? So we understand now everyone has a role. I am a facilitator. I am just there to support, right? Because I have been part of his learning. The parent becomes active listener. It is so important for the child to have their parents listening to them, right? So it's a very wonderful opportunity where the parent sees how the child sees the school, right? How he's taking his learning and portraying and talking about the same with so much of confidence, right? So here we see the three party, which are integral part of a child's growth, are coming together, right? And leading this conference. So moving on, we have certain pictures on your screen here. These are certain pictures which are depicting how a student-led conference typically looks like in a classroom, right? So here, if you would see, we have a child who is holding a physical portfolio, right? Because these are the pictures before the COVID time. So you will certainly see it's not just the academic aspect where the child is sharing, right? You should see the emotions of the parents which are felt at that period of time, because you understand when a young adult, right? Or maybe, you talk about the middle school, or even we at GEMS, we start with SLCs right from grade 1, right? So right from grade 1 onwards, the child is taking ownership of their learning and sharing their work, right? We will talk about what this work compromises of, right? We will talk about that in detail. However, just for the look of it, if you would see, how would logistically it looks like, right? So you would see the child, the parent, and the teacher sitting together and having a conference, right? It is not a mandatory that you do it in the classroom, right? You could organize it in a space where it's quiet, right? Because you would need space, you would need a little silence to the child to be heard, right? So why do we do student-led conferences, right? Why a new concept to be introduced in a school? It could be a little overwhelming because it's something new. So how will teachers adapt to it? How will the students adapt to it, right? But once you do it for the first time, I think the results itself will kind of talk and will say that this is something you really need to start in your schools, right? So there are various benefits, but the foremost, and I think the most crucial one here is that when you do a student-led conference, the ownership of learning, the ownership of their work lies within the child, right? So if we can motivate a child, if we can intrinsically motivate a child to do something, there's nothing like that, right? We all have extrinsic factors, right? But intrinsically, you are motivating a child. So you are giving the ownership of their own learning to the students. Now you have to make a portfolio. You have to choose your best work. What's in English? What's in maths? What's in social science? right? So they're choosing their work to be put in the portfolio. Definitely, if you have to put the work, you have to do the work, right? So students will definitely be motivated if they're doing some activity. Okay, I have to do this activity because I have to put it in my portfolio, right? It will be great opportunity, and I need to shine in this particularly, right? So it would be excellent. It would be work as a motivational portion for the students to take the responsibility of their own learning, right? Also, when you know when the child knows that my parent is going to see that, they get very excited about the same, right? We all get excited when we have to share something with someone, right? So when they know that my parents will be coming on SLC and I have to share my portfolio, they automatically gets very excited, right? So that happiness quotient in itself is very motivating for the student, right? And then next, very, very important, the individual choice, right? So if I'm making my portfolio, I have a choice. Okay, I think I want to put this poem I wrote in English class in my English portfolio, right? In English portfolio work. I want to put this sheet which I did in social science class. Oh, this wonderful activity I did this. Maybe I can take some screenshots and put it there, right? So it's an individual choice. How my portfolio will look like will be very different from, for example, if I have a different a girl in my class, right? So every individual is making a different portfolio, right? The responsibility lies within the student. He chooses or she chooses the work they are putting in the SLC portfolio, right? Another aspect which goes in SLC portfolio, apart from your work, apart from your best work, I would say, it goes the reflection sheets, right? There is nothing more beautiful when a child gets time to reflect on their own work, right? So, for example, if we did an activity and I give them a reflection sheet, what do you think this activity was for? You're giving them a trigger. हमने ये activity की क्यों है, right? So students answers few questions. Okay, how do you think it's related to the topic we are doing? Maybe it's an introduction activity. Maybe it's something you are telling them to, getting to the zone kind of activity or icebreaker, right? How is it related to the topic I'm going to teach you? Okay, what did you find the most interesting? What did you enjoy the most in the activity? Okay, what was it so challenging to do it? How can you improve on it? Why is it your best work, right? So all sort of questions when you're asking them, it will take you 5 minutes to do a reflection sheet. But what will happen is child will automatically start thinking about their work. It's not just the first, they do it and they finish it, right? You're giving them some time to reflect. Think about your work. How have you done, right? And on your screen, if you see, there is one sheet here, which which is an example you could do after the SLC, when the SLC is done. So how was your SLC? How do you think your parents responded? Were you able to answer to all the questions, right? Do you think there's still some improvement areas where you could work on, right? Is there something your parents has suggested which we need to work on? Maybe in English, maybe in communication. So something, a reflection done after the SLC, because it's really going to help the child to work better for the second SLC. So at GEMS, what we are doing is we are doing two student-led conferences, one right away in July and one somewhere in December, so that they have whole lot of reflections and work to be done within the two learning cycles, and then they can produce and show the growth. So from the first portfolio to the second portfolio, you will definitely see the growth, right? And also, if you would, the students stay with you for the second year as well, right? You do your portfolio in fifth grade, and when the child goes in sixth grade, you have an evidence, you have a documentation of the whole year, right? So it is allowing students to learn new skills. So we are a generation where we were not talking so much in classrooms. We had a very traditional approach, but things have changed, right? We have a classroom where it's an active classroom. Students have the voice and choice. They have the confidence to talk, to have a discussion, to gauge their attention of the teacher, right? So they're learning whole lot of skills when they are in a student-led conference. They are negotiating with their parents when they are talking and reasoning. The teacher is asking questions, the parent is asking questions. Okay, you have written this, but how did you do this? So the child is explaining, child is justifying, right, his work probably to you. So the communication skills are evolving. There's logical reasoning which is evolving. Definitely the whole setup of student-led conferences is to focus on skills rather than the academic aspect, because academic aspect, definitely the teachers are evolving with time, but definitely this event gives the child a responsibility of shining through the skill, right? And the last but not the least, it's a celebration, right? When there is a PTM, right, there is a little concept and a little notion about the PTMs where the teacher is going to tell about the child, right? Yes, it has become a conversation now. The parents are sharing their own learning and the advices and the feedbacks they have, and it's a dialogue between the parent and the teacher. However, the child is missing from that event, right? But in SLC, child becomes the center, and the parents and the teacher becomes a part of that event, right? So it becomes more of a celebration rather than an assessment, right? You could use SLC portfolios definitely as an assessment how your kids are doing, but it becomes an informal assessment. But definitely it becomes a celebration where parents are coming to school, kids are excited about their portfolio, and you build that excitement within the children, right? So moving on and explaining what is the role of a teacher here, right? So we will try to understand the different roles of different people here. So first come the teacher. Now, foremost responsibility of a teacher is to motivate the students to build a portfolio, right? Once you are clear what you want from your students, you set the expectations, the students will be outperforming the same, right? So definitely when you have a scheduling of SLC, you need to put it in the calendar, in your school calendar. So the students and the parents are informed, okay, on July, this Friday and Saturday, we will be having SLC. In December, in the third week, we will be having SLCs. So we have to keep on working. It's a gradual process. It's not one day you could build a portfolio, right? So definitely the scheduling has to be on point. You have to work with the children. You have to have a lot of dialogue. What kind of work you need to put it in your work, right? In social science, for example, if you're a subject teacher, you have to give a checklist to your students. Okay, these are the 10 activities we did in the whole session, right? So you can choose any one or two, the best work you would say, and put it in your portfolio, which you would like to showcase to your parents, right? And then definitely if you're doing it for the first time, rehearsal is something you would really need to do with your students, right? No one is a perfect, you would say a speaker, a public speaker, right? Everyone has their own inhibitions. Not every child is same. So we have to give a little demo to the students that how do you portray, right? So when I sit here with my portfolio and my parents come, I have to greet them. It's very important you greet them. So hello mom and dad, welcome to my SLC. For example, I'm Anjali from grade 3 and I will be talking about my portfolio today. So it becomes a welcoming, right? You could definitely add a short poem, short quote to that, and then you move on, right? So it's very important that you give a little demo to your students. Once they do it one time, they will be pro. They will be, improvising and they'll be doing it again and again, right? So for the first time, rehearsals are very important. As a teacher, you could demonstrate them, and then you can give them peer practice. So Anjali, you sit with Pravina and you practice how you're going to do your SLC with your portfolio, right? So that becomes an integral part. And last but not the least, as a teacher, we need to arrange the space and the time slots. So for example, I want to do it in my classroom. So I will arrange the furniture such that it allows the space and the time to convey that message, right? So it should be a quiet space. You cannot have a lot of noise when SLC is happening because the child is taking the lead and talking, right? So the time slots should be shared ideally 3 to 4 days before so that parents are informed and they are available either physically or digitally, how it's going to work depending on the situation. But definitely parents should be informed well in advance, right? Now, what is the role of a student here? I have been talking, I think, right from the front that the leader of SLC is the child, right? You are definitely helping them, supporting them, scaffolding them towards the work, but definitely the child becomes the leader here, right? He is choosing his best work, he's identifying, he's reflecting, and he's making certain goals at the end, right? So when he puts all his work, he does a goal sheet like we do. We put it in our report card as well, which we call a progress report card, where we shows, okay, in English, I need to work on my fluency of reading, right? And the goal has to be a smart goal. It should be specific, it should be measurable, right? It should be achievable, and it should be time specific. Okay, if you want to improve your fluency, how will you do that? So he set a goal for himself and will be reading, for example, 10 books from the library, and I'll be preparing a chart, right? If in I want to work, and it's not just limited to academics, it could be behavioristic as well. He wants to work on his, for example, team building. He wants to work on his collaboration skills. So how will he do that? How will he push himself out of the comfort zone, right? And that can only happen if the teacher is having a dialogue. If teacher is not having a dialogue with students in this spectrum, students will not think in that way, right? So it's very important for the teacher to demonstrate these ideas, right? Those who are listening for this topic for the first time, there are a lot of beautiful articles, pictures on Google, definitely out there on the internet. You can have a look, and you can always reach me on LinkedIn if it's available, and you can always research about this topic and introduce in your schools as well, right? So last but not the least, what's the role of a parent, right? Now, parent is becoming an integral part of a child's learning, right? It's an excitement time when they are going to the school to listen to their kid. What have they been learning to, right? So when they see what the child is doing in the class, that becomes a motivating factor for the parent and the belief in the school. Okay, I think I'm doing the best job for my child, that my child is going in the school and is learning so many things, and he's kind of portraying all this documentation, right? We have learned documentation when we were in college or when we were working, right? These kids are making a portfolio, a document, right, of their evidences of their learning right from this young age, right? And teachers are always there to help, especially in grade 1, 2, and 3, right, where the kids are just learning IT skills. But definitely parent have to be very considerate, very patient, a listener, and asking some probing questions probably. Okay, you have written this was a very challenging work. Why was it so challenging? Why? Okay. So probing some questions to have a dialogue in the SLC, right? Now you could definitely put best work, you could put some assessment sheets, some formal assessments, probably some inside informal assessments which have been conducted in the class. You can put some reflection sheets, goal sheets, which can go, right? So on your screen now, you have a digital conversation, or you would say SLC, which has been conducted in GEMS for the first time. We all had gone in COVID times digitally, right? We were all working online. So we have adapted to the same, right? And we have on your screen, if you would see this section on some screenshots from NSLC, where you would see the child has made a digital portfolio. Now, rather than having a file in their hand, they have a sway, they have a PPT, which they're sharing the screen and talking about it. The things we learned in this age, they are learning in this age, right? So there's a huge gap here, and the kind of skills they are grasping through it is excellent. It's par excellence. So you would see here the first page probably could be about the child, what is their name, probably, what are their hobbies, what they like, what they don't like, their picture, right? So they feel part of it, they feel the belongingness, right? And then definitely they can put some screenshots of their best work, any achievement, class pictures, anything which they have been doing in the class, which they would like their parents to see. Definitely it becomes a part of your portfolio, right? So it could be a notebook work, it could be a project, it could be a lab work, it could be any group work, any quiz they had done. So all these different aspects of learning they have been doing, that becomes a part of your portfolio, right? Now coming to the subject specific, for example, in English, they can put their writing work, they can put their essays, the poems, or maybe any group activity they had done. In music, if they're learning a song, or maybe they have composed something, they can put that as well. There are some reflection sheets probably, or maybe they have made a video in ICT, or they have done some experiment in science, right? What does it do? It provides a documentation, right? We have been doing as a teachers as well, right? We do so much, but once you start documenting it somewhere, when you know, when you're conscious that consciously I have to prepare a document, right? Because I have my SLC, right? So you will be very conscious of the work you'll do, and you will be very organized in the work you will do. And once we instill this habit, once we instill this practice, right from the young age, it will be excellent, right, when they'll be growing up. So that takes me to the end of this conversation, where what happens at the day of conference, right? So parents are coming in the slot. So for example, Anjali's parents are coming from 9 to 9:15. It's a 15 to 20-minute slot which is given to a parent, ideally 15 minutes, right? The child welcomes, the teacher welcomes. You could definitely have some sort of, arrangement where there's a lot of space between each other, so that we can be respectful of each other, the greeting with a beautiful smile. And then definitely the teachers have to really set the tone of the conference. The teacher is the facilitator, so they build the confidence of the parent and the child, that this is an opportunity for the child to shine. So he is the speaker today, he is the leader today. So even if we have some big questions, or if we have some huge feedback for the child, let it keep it for backside, right, for some time later. Maybe we can have a discussion later. Today, the child is going to share his or her learning, right? So there's a lot of reflection at the end of SLC, where the parent has seen the work and advices probably. I do feel that in Hindi probably, हिंदी में थोड़ा कम काम था. So maybe जब आप next portfolio बनाएंगे, हिंदी में आपका ज्यादा कार्य डालेंगे, right? So you identify, you reflect, and then you motivate the child. The end of the conference should always be a motivational factor for the child. So when the parent says, I'm really proud of you, the way you have, talked and conversed and shared, it's amazing, right? The child will feel, okay, what amazing work I have done, and he'll be motivated towards doing the next few months, right? So I think that comes to the end slide, and I would really say that it's a beautiful concept done in a lot of global schools. In India as well, there are a few schools which have started and doing amazingly. So I would really motivate the teachers here, or any people whoever is associated with education, to really understand the concept and truly create this space and this celebration of learning at this schools. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Miss Anjali. It was a very informative session, Miss Anjali, and this is the first time even I heard a talk on this topic. I myself enjoyed it. And I have a couple of questions from my side. What made you choose this topic?
So, ma'am, I had a lot of topics in my mind. I am also working on professional development for teachers, and I keep on thinking what topics could come in. But when we talk about teaching, I think we always forget that we are teachers because of the students, right? And how can we get that kind of feeling in the students when they want to learn? It's not because they have to learn, right? So that want, how can we create that? So we have to choose different strategies to portray the same, right? So I do feel that I have worked in almost 5-6 schools now, but this is the first school where SLCs are being conducted, and I truly feel the impact of this conference which are conducted in the school. I do feel the change of the attitude of the parents towards the teachers, right? And I truly understand that the students do take a little time to understand it in the starting, but once they get a hang of it, I think it's been 2 years or 3 years now, they have got hang of it. They are so easily making and creating these portfolios, and they have this documentation for their life. Anytime they want to look at this document, they can look, okay, grade 3 mein maine ye activity ki thi, main aisa dikhta tha, they have their pictures also there. So I think student-led conferences is something I feel really passionate about, and I truly feel that all the schools should kind of impose this event in schools.
Thank you. So the next question related is about the work of a student, but again, like it's related to the student-led conferences also. How have you encouraged the less motivated students, okay, to participate in the lesson and do their work and these kind of activities, ma'am? Can you give some examples with the results?
Absolutely, ma'am. So in our classrooms, in our daily classrooms as well, we have a very mixed grouping, right? You have students who are very enthusiastic, you have students who are not so interested in your subject specifically because they are not interested in the subject, right? So I teach social science. Social science in itself, people say it's a very boring subject, why do we have to learn about the same? But we have to create that kind of interest in the students. So I think as a teacher, you play such a huge role in getting the love, or you would say interest. You could not have the love for subject from all the 25 children probably, but I think your teaching strategies plays a very major role. If you will love the subject and you will do that kind of passion, and you will have a lot of respect for the students, so and motivate the students. Okay, what do you think? Ask them a simple questions, right? Give them an opportunity to feel confident. Okay, I think I also know this question. So I think simplifying the questions for them, building their confidence, and acknowledging them a lot, appreciating them a lot, I think that work very well for the students who are not so much producing their work on time. Deadlines are a very important integral part. So I think the right motivation, appreciation from the teachers, and a lot of acknowledgement and the different teaching strategies does help in getting the work done.
Okay. So because of the time constraint, I have to ask you only one more question. We have only space for one question. In your own words, what should be the main goal of any teacher?
Ma'am, if the question I've got it is that what is the role of a teacher in this world?
What should be the main goal of any teacher?
That's, I think I have 100 of things which are going in my mind, but definitely the primary goal of a teacher, one, it should be to create a very safe space for the students where they're allowed to make mistakes, where they're allowed to speak, they have the freedom to work on their creativity, to have a space where they don't feel, okay, I don't want to go to school, I don't want to go to class, right? That kind of feeling, if they get it, the learning will never happen, right? So I always say the relationships is the foremost rule, or you would say a key to learning. If you have a good relationship with your students, there's nothing like it. So I think create meaningful relationships with the students, and then you can definitely nurture them, help them, facilitate them to get the best outcome out of them according to their individual differences.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Anjali Yadav. We have now completed the round of questions. On behalf of School Journal of Education and schoolreformer.com, we like to thank you for the talk and for patiently answering all the questions, ma'am. Thanks a lot.
Thank you
And
so
we
much.
end the meeting. Thank you.